Hi, my name is Dr. Jonathan Fairman, and I'm here today to talk to you about Build Your Own Earth, a tool that we have built so that you can actually explore different climate parameters. This video is meant to be a walkthrough of the tool so that you will be able to actually independently go through all of the simulations that we have already run. Build Your Own Earth can be accessed through buildyourown.earth.com or through the Coursera website. When you go to the website, you are first given two options: get started or take a tour. Since this is our first time going through, we're going to select take a tour. As you can see, the take a tour gives us a guided look at how to use the Build Your Own Earth interface. The first step is selecting which model simulation that we would like to view. We can choose many different ones via the drop-down menus. For example, either the recent Earths, as shown, the ancient Earths, from the drop-down list here, and the alien Earths, from the drop-down list here. Some simulations have multiple options. So if we go to recent Earths, select the CO2, you can see that there are different simulations and different options that we have here. And you can see a secondary drop-down menu associated with that. As you can see, if we select these different options, you can see how these values change in these Earth properties box, this green rounded rectangle. For example, if we go from the CO2 low simulation to the CO2 in the year 2100 as from the IPCC A1F1 CO2 scenario, this blue bar changes from 200 parts per million to 1,000 parts per million. Changing different variables has different responses. For example, if we were to change the axial tilt from 0 degrees to the axial tilt of 90 degrees, you can see the differences in the way the Earth rotates on its axis. Finally, after we have selected the model that we would like to view, we can select a climate property. These are arranged in 4 different categories: atmosphere, ice, land, and ocean. Some of these variables will have different levels associated with them. For example, mean temperature will be either at the surface, 250 hectopascals, 500 hectopascals, or 700 hectopascals. Finally, at the end of this, after selecting our variables, we can click View Model when we have chosen an appropriate model that we'd like to see on the next page. So from this, let's select the current day simulation. So we'd want to go into Recent and click on Current Day 2015. Let's start off by viewing the mean surface temperature, which should be the default, and then click View Model. As you see, we now have the surface temperature up in the climate viewer. You are now able to either play or pause the climate viewer at any given month so that we can actually look at each month specifically. And if you would like to keep this animation going, you can change the animation speed to set your rate of play, either slower or faster. You're also able to change the view of how you actually look at each one of these model parameters. So if we would like to see the graph centered on the Pacific Ocean versus the Atlantic Ocean, we can click 180 degrees. If you would like to see the map centered at the North Pole, we can click N. And if we'd like to see the graph centered at the South Pole, we can click S. Let's go back to our prime meridian view, which is centered over the Atlantic Ocean. We can also add another Earth to the viewer for comparison. To do this, we would select the Add Earth To button. From this, we are presented with the same drop-down menu that we had from the beginning. And from this, so let's look at another simulation. For example, the no greenhouse gas simulation, and click Next. You are then able to bring up this climate model view to continue. So now we have two Earths. Let's adjust the speed a little bit to make it a little bit slower. And now we have two Earths side by side next to each other. You can now see that we have a different slider that we can move from side to side to see more of each one of these Earths. We can change the orientation of this slider to go from east to west to north and south to actually look at how these different Earth simulations actually change. If you ever forget what properties that the Earth that you have selected has, you are able to toggle back to the View Properties screen, which will bring you back to the splash screen that we have seen already. This will show you the different parameters that are present within the Earth. So that, for example, today's current day 2015 simulation, we have 400 parts per million of CO2, 326 parts per billion of nitrous oxide, and all the other parameters that are valid for today. Clicking the View Climate Model button brings you back to the climate screen. It's easy enough to switch between different climate parameters. So changing these climate properties from this drop-down menu, for example, if we want to see the total precipitation, we can select these and switch them at any time. Finally, if we have actually come to the end and you want to stop and create an image, for example, let's say that we want to look at the differences in July precipitation between this current day simulation and this no greenhouse gas simulation, we can click this button here in the upper corner, which will actually download a specific image for you. Thank you for watching this tour and walkthrough. The next video will go over different climate properties and how to interpret them based upon the current day simulation.